Hey everybody, this is Todd Zempel, and I want to welcome you to the Mid-Atlantic Women's Care 401k Plan enrollment meeting. Quick background on me. So I work with Gordon Asset Management out of Durham, North Carolina. We are the investment advisor to the retirement plan. You can see my contact information there, email, phone number. So if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can also go to our website, wealthqb.com, and you can schedule an appointment from there. There's a big schedule a meeting button. You can just click on that, schedule a meeting with us. Also, before we get on the presentation, also know that there is a website that we constructed specifically to convey information about the plan. The link is there, wealthqb.com/MAWC-401k. There's also a link on the UKG Pro HR portal website. So that website's really nice. It has a bunch of good information on there. This video will eventually be on there. There's also some great educational pieces. There's a video about the investments. There's also links to other important information about the plan. So definitely a great resource. In terms of the agenda for today, we're going to talk about the plan conversion and all the things that you need to do as a participant in the plan to get set up with your account. We'll also talk about some highlights of the plan, how the plan works, walk through that enrollment process, as I mentioned, touch on the investments, saving for retirement, and end with some resources available to you. So to take a step back, as you all know, the plan is converted to new service providers, and those service providers are listed on the screen. So again, my firm, Gordon Asset Management, we're the investment advisor. We pick and choose the available investment options within the plan. We're also here to help you if you have questions related to retirement planning or your investment allocation. MVP is the record keeper and administrator for the plan. They're the ones processing contributions, distributions. They host the website and do all the plan compliance. Their website is mvp401k.com. Make sure to note that because that's the website that you'll need to go to set up your account and access your account. And then behind the scenes, we're all running off the Charles Schwab custodial platform, meaning that's where your money is actually held. You probably won't see their name a whole lot. They operate mostly behind the scenes, but that's ultimately where your money is. So the big to-do list items. So everybody, now that the plan is converted as of July 1st today, the switch has been flipped and the plan is now live. And so now everybody needs to go to that mvp401k.com website, and feel free to do this as I'm talking. And that's where you'll need to register your account. So everybody needs to do this, whether you plan on contributing or not. You still need to log in, set up your account, and double check all the information. So make sure, the basic information like address and whatnot is right. Set your deferral rate. By deferral rate, I mean how much you are contributing to the plan. Update your beneficiaries. So if something were to happen to you, that's where the money goes. And then also review and make changes to your investment allocation. So those are the most important things that everybody needs to do, and we will walk through shortly how to do all those things. To take a step back, plan highlights. So the way that the plan operates, to be eligible, you must have completed 9 months of service. And then once you've completed that 9 months of service, you enter the plan on either July 1st or January 1st following that. So there are a number of people that are newly eligible to come into the plan as of this July 1st, today. So with the plan, right, the way it works is you put money into the plan, the company puts money in the plan, it gets invested, it grows, and then when you go to take the money out in retirement, that's additional income for you. So specifically with your contributions, everybody's automatically enrolled in the plan with a 3% deferral rate, meaning just by default, once you become eligible, 3% of your pay is coming out of your paycheck and going into the plan. You don't have to do that. You can do more, you can do less. You don't have to contribute anything at all, but that is the default starting point. And so if you want to change that, you actually need to go onto the website and opt out and do something different. So that is an action item for anybody that is new that doesn't want to contribute 3%. With the conversion, the deferral rates information all came over, but I highly urge you to double check it and make sure it's right. Sometimes things happen with the data where it may not have come over right. So that's another really important thing that you need to take a look at. So as you're going through this process, make sure to check that your deferral rate is set up properly. But again, how the plan works, money comes out of your paycheck, it goes into the plan, and you can do that either pre-tax or after-tax, which is known as Roth contributions. And we'll talk about that in detail in just a second, but with deferral changes, anytime you want to make changes to how much money you're contributing, you need to do that online through that MVP 401k website. So just know that, and later as we walk through the process of getting you set up, we'll talk about how to make changes there. Just a quick note as well, talking about your money going into the plan, you can also roll money in to the plan if you have an outside old 401k or IRA. I'm not going to go through that process today, but if you want to do that, want to explore that as an option, just give us a call and we can walk through that process with you. Now, speaking specifically to pre-tax versus Roth, with pre-tax contributions come out of your paycheck before you've paid income tax on them. They go into the plan, they grow tax deferred, and then when you take the money out in retirement, it's all taxed as income at that point. With Roth, you pay all the income tax now, goes into the plan, and then when you take the money out in retirement, assuming you're taking it out at retirement age, not early, it's all tax-free at that point. The nice thing is with Roth is you get all that tax-free earnings growth and compounding. Now, which makes sense for you? It obviously varies for everybody, but if you're in a higher tax bracket now than you expect to be in retirement, that's typically when pre-tax mathematically makes the most sense. If you are in a lower tax bracket than you expect to be later and in retirement, that's usually where Roth makes sense. You can do some of both. You don't have to fully commit. You can do half pre-tax, half Roth. It's completely up to you. Also know that, a lot of people expect that in the future tax rates may increase. So some people that, although they're maybe in a high tax bracket now, we tend to see some people maybe switch to Roth just with the expectation that their taxes are going up in the future. Again, this is another great topic. If you want to have a deeper conversation about how it affects you and which may be best for you, feel free to give us a call. Now, we talked about your contributions going in the plan. The company also contributes money to the plan. How that looks is there'll be a 3% contribution, so 3% of your pay will go into the plan, regardless of whether or not you contribute. And we call this a 3% safe harbor contribution. So that 3% is immediately vested. So if you were to leave the company 6 months from now, that money, once it hits your account, that's yours to take with you. There's no vesting schedule. And that 3% contribution, that's based on your full year compensation. So retroactive back to January 1st through December 31st of this year. There's also the potential for additional profit sharing into the plan. I can't promise you anything because it's discretionary, right? So things can always change, but there's definitely some potential for additional contributions there as well. Distributions, taking money out of the plan. Well, there's a couple ways that can happen. Number one, when you reach age 59 and a half, if you're still working, you need to access the money, you can under the in-service withdrawal provision. So you have access to it at that point. Obviously, if you were to die, your heirs would be able to access the money. If you became disabled, you can access the money. And then, of course, anytime you terminate employment with Mid-Atlantic, you can have access to the money at that point. What a lot of people tend to do is roll it out to an individual retirement account, or if you go to work somewhere else that has a 401k, you can roll the money out to the 401k. Probably the worst decision that people make is when they separate from service, taking all that money as cash and having to pay taxes and penalties. So if you take the money out before you reach age 59 and a half, you not only have to pay income tax on it, you have to pay the IRS a big fat 10% penalty. And then last but not least, if you have a financial hardship, you can access the money for some specific purposes, like to prevent foreclosure, eviction, medical bills, if a tree falls on your house and insurance doesn't cover all the repairs, some things like that. You can actually access the money as a distribution, meaning you're paying taxes and potentially that 10% penalty if you're not 59 and a half, or you can take a loan for those purposes, but you have to pay the loan back. So that's just a really high level summary of how the plan works. Now let's get into the nitty gritty of enrolling into the new website. So this, again, this is the really important part. So if you want to go ahead and walk through this process as I'm talking, I absolutely encourage you to do that. The website you'll need to go to is mvp401k.com, mvp401k.com. Then from there, you'll click on the login button in the top right-hand corner, and you'll click participant login. So login, participant login. The very first time you log in, you'll need to use your social security number with no dashes as the login and your date of birth in 2-digit month, 2-digit day, 4-digit year format. And so again, that's the very first time that you log in. That's just the default. If you run into problems getting onto the website at this point, it's possible maybe we have a digit wrong in your date of birth or something like that. Call MVP directly at 866-687-6877, and they should be able to help you. But again, mvp401k.com, login, participant login, social security for the password, no dashes, and date of birth, 2-digit month, 2-digit day, 4-digit year format for the password. From there, you're just going to follow the bouncing ball, so to speak. It will ask you to enter a new password. It will ask you to enter an email address. Make sure to enter a personal email address that you actually check, because for things like notifications on changes to your account, you want to be looking at those to make sure that somebody doesn't have access to your account. You'll also be asked to set up a new user ID. Obviously, we don't want you using your social security number for your user ID any longer than you have to. Then also, it will ask you to set up security questions. So if you've registered for any website in the past decade, I don't suspect you will have any problems with any of this. Pretty status quo. And then last but not least here, it will also prompt you to set up two-factor verification. So when you access the account from a new computer or something like that, you'll get a code to enter as you log into the website. Again, you're just following the bouncing ball. It will walk you through everything you need to do. Just click next, and it'll take you to the next step. So this screen here in front of you is one of the next most important things. It will ask you how much you would like to contribute. So if you're new to the plan, it will say, hey, you're automatically enrolled at this 3% contribution. Do you want to keep this or choose something different? So if you just leave the first box checked, you will do that 3% contribution. If you want to choose a different amount, you choose option 2. Or if you want to opt out completely, you just hit option 3. So this is very important that you do this. From there, you can set up e-delivery preferences. Most people like to have things just emailed to you. And then again, it will walk you through all these individual steps. It will ask you about your beneficiaries, who you'd like those to be. That's who the money goes to if something were to happen to you. Quick note on beneficiaries. If you are married, by law, your beneficiary has to be your spouse unless you print off a paper form, have your spouse sign off on it, and that has to be notarized. So that is a little bit of a pain in the neck type process, especially for folks that are maybe separated but not yet divorced. But that is the law. If you have any questions on beneficiaries, reach out to us. Also, it will ask you about your investments. You don't have to make a decision now. Everybody by default is put into one of the target date funds that's managed for you. You can just accept that excuse me, you can just accept that and come back to it later. Or if you feel like you want to go ahead and pick all your investments at this stage, you're absolutely welcome to. I would say that most people tend to just go with the target date fund and maybe log back in another couple of days when you have some additional time to look at it more thoughtfully. But then once you go through all that process, you'll complete the enrollment cycle, and then it'll take about a day for all that information to sort of backload in the system. But then next time you log in, this is essentially what it'll look like. You'll see your account balance, how much you put in the plan year to date, your savings rate, your rate of return, your investments. It's all pretty standard type stuff. The thing I really like about the website, though, is it's super intuitive. So if you want to change how much you are contributing to the plan, for instance, you just click in the area where it says savings rate 6%. You click there, it takes you to the screen where you need to change it. Or you want to drill down on your investment performance, you just click there where it says year-to-date rate of return, and it'll take you to a screen where you can drill down into the details of your investment performance. So it's pretty intuitive. There's also a little profile widget in the top right-hand corner. I do want to draw your eyes to that because that's where you'll actually need to go if you ever want to go in and like change your password. That's also where your beneficiaries are located. So just want to draw your eyes there. But I don't suspect anybody will have any problems navigating the website. It's all fairly easy. I do want to just note really quickly on automatic enrollment. Let's just say you walk through the process, you were automatically enrolled in the plan with 3% deferral. 2 months from now, you want to change it. To do that, you'll click Manage Contributions, and you'll first need to opt out of that automatic contribution. So you click on Automatic Options, and you'll see an option here, Opt Out, and then a second box to reset to 0. So if you wanted to opt out completely and not participate, you need to check both those boxes. If you want to change it to a different percentage, you just click that top button, Opt Out. And then you'll need to go back in, click Manage Contributions, change contribution rate amount, and you'll have this nice screen where it's you can just type in the percent you want in either Roth or pre-tax, known as just standard 401k contribution. So if you are automatically enrolled, there's that 2-step process to opt out and then go back in and change your contribution to what you want it to be. Changing your investments is also pretty easy. You just click Manage Your Portfolio. Most people use this rebalance tool. So when you click on that, it brings up a screen of all the available investment options. There's some nice links here so you can learn more information about these individual funds. But then you just put the percent you want in each fund, click through the prompts, and you'll get a confirmation once it's done. So it's all pretty easy. I will say that there is a whole separate video deep dive on all the available investment options. So if you're into that, that's on that website that I mentioned. I urge you to check that out. Speaking about investments, you are in charge of managing your own asset allocation. So you are in charge of picking and choosing where you are invested, but we really try to make it as easy as possible. So by default, everybody is put into a target date fund that's managed for you. A target date fund is a one-stop shop, fully managed investment option that essentially automatically becomes more conservative over time as you approach retirement. So it's the do it for me, easy button approach. And again, with the transition, everybody will start in one of those target date funds. You can transfer out today if you wanted. You can do your own thing, but this is the starting point for everybody post conversion. You also have access to an online advice tool, which is nice. It's out there for free, so we'll talk about that process in just a minute, but you essentially fill out some questions, and at the end, it will give you an investment allocation based on all the information you put in. So that's pretty cool. It's out there for free. You had a similar tool available at SunTrust that I believe you paid for, but this one's out there for free for anybody that wants to use it. You can also call us. So if you're somebody that likes to bounce ideas off somebody else, Or if you already work with an advisor, you can give the information to them. They can pick the funds for you. Or if you work with an advisor and you want a second opinion on what they're doing, just call us. We're happy to take a look at it as well. But to spend a little more time on the target date funds, like I mentioned, everybody will be defaulted into one of the target date funds based on your date of birth. So you can see on the screen the date of birth ranges and the appropriate fund. And so the funds we're using are called the TIAA-CREF Life Cycle Index funds. And there's a year associated with those funds. And those years are approximately, they will correspond approximately to when you turn age 65. So if you were born in 1981, let's say, you will be defaulted into the 2045 fund because that's approximately when you're going to turn age 65. The way that these funds work, as I mentioned, they automatically become more conservative over time. And so the graph you have in front of you is sort of visual representation of how that works. So along the bottom axis, these are years to retirement. So when you're far out from retirement, you're on the left-hand side. The 0 is approximately when you turn age 65, and the negative numbers are when you're out past retirement. And then when you look at the chart, the darker blues are more aggressive type investments, and the lighter greens are more conservative type investments. So you can see when you're really young, you're going to be invested pretty aggressively in these more aggressive type holdings. And then as you get closer to retirement, those funds automatically move you into some of the more the conservative type stuff. And that occurs even after retirement. So that's a nice visual representation of how that works. But again, the important thing to keep in mind with these target date funds is it's just done for you. One-stop shop. You don't have to think about it. So that's kind of the easy button, and that's why they're the default option for everybody, because they're managed. The other thing I mentioned, we have that Smart Plan Advice tool. It's sort of this video-based tutorial tool. It's pretty neat. If you click Plan Basics, it tells you about the plan and how it works. There's a retirement needs estimator where you can estimate how much Social Security will generate for you and how much you'll need to have saved for retirement. There's also a really cool risk tolerance questionnaire. It'll ask you questions like, if the market dropped 10%, how would you behave? And it's multiple choice. You just walk through the process and it will tell you your risk tolerance. So as you can see on the screen here, this person was moderately aggressive. But the really nice thing about this tool is you do those couple things, and at the end of the process, it will tell you which percent to put into which funds. And if you accept the recommendations, you can tweak them. You can, if it says 10% in one fund and you want to do 15, you can do that. So these are just recommendations based on the computer algorithm and all the information you put in. Just follow the prompts through, and it will actually make those changes for you right on the website, which is pretty nice. There's also a nice retirement estimator. You can play around with how increasing or decreasing contributions to the plan will affect your retirement nest egg. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, again, that tool, that investment advice tool, that's out there for free for anybody that wants to use it. So it is a little bit of a process to walk through all the questionnaire, but I highly encourage you to check it out if you're interested. Now, big picture planning for retirement. When we talk about retirement, we look at it in terms of replacement ratio. So how much of your pre-retirement income do we need to replace in retirement off of Social Security and your investments to maintain a similar standard of living? A lot of really smart academic studies have been done, and generally what they find is you need to generate between 70 and 80% of your pre-retirement income off of Social Security and your investments in order to maintain a similar standard of living in retirement. And just because the numbers are nice and round, let's just say your family was making $100,000 per year before retirement, you need to make between 70 and 80 off of Social Security and your 401k to maintain a similar standard of living. If you go into retirement without a lot of debt, maybe if you can get your house paid off or close to paid off, no credit card debt, things like that, you're probably on the lower end of that spectrum, probably closer to 70%. If you don't, if your expenses really hadn't changed much, or you're not expecting will change much in retirement, you'll probably need to target closer to that 80%. But know that there are multiple levers that you can pull. You can save more, you can also spend less. Now let's take a look how to tell if you are on track based on your current savings. So the chart in front of you, the way to read it is you find your age and your income and find the intersect. So let's look at somebody who's 45 years old making $50,000. You'll see this factor of 1.5. So take that 1.5, multiply it by your income. So 1.5 times 50,000 is $75,000. That's how much this person should have saved in their 401k to be on track for retirement at this point in their life. We also call this the gut punch slide because when a lot of people see this, they say, well, I'm nowhere close to that. This is crazy. Just know that that's fine. You know, we have some nice, healthy employer contributions that make the math easier to play catch up. But if you aren't on track, there's some work to do. We'll either have to pull those levers of reducing expenses in retirement or increasing contributions. And I'll give you some shortcuts on that in just a moment. If you're younger, you can see up here dashes. That just means if you have anything saved for retirement, you are ahead of the game. The other thing I do want to mention is you'll notice the factors get larger as your income increases. And the reason for that is Social Security will replace less of your income. We do notice that, you know, folks making a lot of money don't tend to live on a lot of money in retirement. Some do. But usually the standard of living goes down a little bit, not traveling as much, not living as extravagantly. So you can also look at this in terms of, well, I'm, you know, maybe my family's making $150,000, but I probably will live on $75,000 in retirement. So you can kind of look at the data that way as well. But to shortcut a lot of that, really the general rule of thumb, the magic math as I refer to it, is if you can get to a 10% savings rate by the time you're age 35 and do that the rest of your life, you'll have enough money. That's kind of the magic math. That's how it works out. But a lot of people, you know, maybe they'll start early, but then they'll stop. They'll take a new job, take their money out of the plan, take it as cash, pay the penalty or whatever, and then restart later in life. That kind of stuff happens all the time. So the really important thing is to stay consistent with it. If you switch jobs, don't take that money out as cash. Keep it in a plan. Keep it in a 401k plan or an IRA. Continue that 10%. Also, you know, sometimes things happen. Sometimes you just have to stop your deferral for a period because you have something going on. And I totally get that. That's totally okay. That is totally normal. But just know if you're not consistently saving that 10%, then, you know, when you get a little bit older and when you can, you're going to need to save a little bit more. You're going to need to play some catch up at that point. So the general rule of thumb, get to that 10% savings rate. The nice thing is that your company is contributing at least 3%, potentially a couple more in terms of profit sharing. So that makes it a little bit easier to get to that 10% number when the company's doing, you know, 3, 4, 5%. Also, start where you can. Some of this can sometimes sound daunting. You start even if it's 1 or 2%, and then as you have a pay increase, also increase your contributions. I think that's a great method to increase your contributions over time without feeling like you're missing out on take-home pay. So coordinate those deferral increases with pay increases. Now to recap things, again, your to-do list. Everybody needs to go to that MVP401k.com website, register, walk through that process, follow the bouncing ball. It's pretty easy to get set up. Confirm your account information. Make sure to double check and or set your deferral rate. Again, that information should have come over from the previous record keeper, but who knows? Could be wrong. Maybe you'd forgotten about it and it's something that you didn't expect. Maybe you turned it off 2 years ago and never turned it back on. That kind of stuff absolutely happens. So take a look at that, set that deferral rate, make sure to upgrade. Again, some of that data comes over, it's not always the best. So just double check it, make sure you have it set up how you want it. And then also, as I mentioned, review and make changes to your investment allocation. I will say with that piece specifically, like I said, most people just kind of go into the target date funds for now, and then, over the time or the next couple of weeks, months, whatever, spend more time and take a more defined approach looking at it. If you are somebody who had set up an investment allocation you really liked at SunTrust, and you want to recreate that over here with MVP, you absolutely can. And if you need help doing that, I would say get a copy of your last statement with them, and then just schedule an appointment with us, and we can help map you into a similar asset allocation. Again, we'll continue to post updates on that website, link through UKG Pro, also wealthqb.com/MAWC-401k. Use that schedule an appointment link. So that comes to us. So again, with the two entities involved, MVP, you'd want to, if you have questions that are more of an administrative nature, help with website processing transactions, reach out to them. But if you have more planning or investment related questions, want to look at pre-tax versus Roth, need help with a rollover, you can reach out to my firm, Gordon Asset Management, using that schedule an appointment button or email address there. I think that's the best way to get a hold of us. So with that, I'll leave you with my contact information on the screen. Feel free to give us a call, shoot us an email. Really excited to be working with you guys. I think we have a really great plan. The fees are very low. You have great investment options. And I'm look forward to having more discussions with all of you. Thanks a lot, folks.